Totem sisters, allies, and loved ones. Welcome to As Told by Childless Women, an oral history series that aims to usher our stories into the permanent archives where they have always belonged. I'm your host, Jobi Tyson, and the founder of Totem Global, a multimedia platform for childless women. And when I first envisioned this series, I knew I wanted to take an active role in documenting the narratives of involuntary childless women and the childless experience. As a researcher, I know too well that archives have power to preserve community memory and influence individual identity. Today's episode gives a voice to low ovarian reserve and the male factor. Behind every childless woman, there's one hell of a story. And today's guest is Catrina, hailing from Louisiana, and she's bravely sharing hers with us today. Thanks, Catrina. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Jobi. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Absolutely. Firstly, I'd just like you to just briefly introduce yourself and tell the audience who you are.
Okay. My name is Catrina Dupuis, and I am married for 22 years to Randy. And we have a dachshund, Paisley, and we live in South Louisiana, and we are childless by circumstance. We did not start trying to have children until our mid 32-ish to 35 is when we were trying our own before we sought help, and we're not able to get pregnant on our own. And then we found out that, number one, I was advanced maternal age, and then I had a low ovarian egg reserve, and he had male factor. At first, he was diagnosed with Azoospermia, and then when we went to a male specialist, we found out that he actually had Oligospermia. Azoospermia is where you have no sperm present, and Oligospermia is where you do have sperm present, but it's very, very low, and they're not exactly healthy.
Okay. Well, okay. Let's just start from the beginning of the journey.
Okay.
Walk us through the beginning.
So just like anybody else, we were discussing, let's start a family. All of our friends around us were starting to have children. I was 32 whenever I went off of the pill. I talked to my OBGYN at my appointment. She said, you're healthy. You shouldn't have any problem. So we start trying. Nothing, no scares, period's still coming on time. We're still trying. I'm looking up what I need to do, asking friends, and they're like, are you tracking your ovulation? Get the app on your phone, do all these things. So I buy the kits, I'm tracking, I'm marking on the calendar, I'm doing temperatures. Go back to my OBGYN for my next annual appointment, and I'm like, look, we've been doing all these things, nothing's happening. She was not concerned. She was like, look, you're normal. Everything's fine. Just, keep trying. I did eventually change doctors because she was so, not helpful. So by this time, though, it had been 2 years since we had been trying on our own and nothing happened. And neither one of us knew anyone in our direct lives that had any issues with infertility, or at least was speaking out about it. So I was completely clueless. Like, I just thought, we're doing something wrong. Like, we're not timing correctly. Like, my doctor keeps telling me I'm healthy. So, everything should be, right.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to a new doctor, and she's like, well, let's run some tests. We did to make sure I didn't have any blocked ovarian tubes, to make sure I didn't have anything going on, cyst, ultrasounds for the uterus, dyes, all those tests. Everything came back clear. So she said, well, let's start you on Clomid and go from there. And I was just kind of struck by, like, okay, 2 doctors have told me I'm good, I'm healthy. All these tests come back, I'm good, I'm healthy. Hormone levels are good, etc. Why isn't anyone wanting to check the man? I'm like, well, before we start taking a drug, can we test my husband just to make sure his sperm is good? And she was like, okay, good idea. We'll send you, to the infertility clinic because they're the ones that do semen analysis. Well, that's where we got our answer. So then we were referred to a male urologist and fertility specialist in New Orleans. So we drive 2 hours to go to this specialist, and we find out in more detail what his issue was with his sperm. And then we get on a laundry list of supplements to help both of us, because I saw the infertility specialist as well when he went for his analysis. And then that's when he told me that at age 35, at this point, I'm considered advanced maternal age.
Okay.
Talk about like a gut punch to be told at 35, advanced maternal age. Like that was like a blow to me. Like I just felt so sick and just depressed, and like, how could, I mean, like there's women, I have friends that have had babies well into their 30s, but when they had help, you know, they didn't speak about IVF or any IUIs or that type of intervention.
Yeah.
So we see the specialist, we start the laundry list of supplements. They tell us to do that for 6 months, go back and see if his count is improved enough and my health of the eggs have improved enough so that we could at least go for IVF. We were definitely not candidates for IUI because he did not have enough of a sperm count, and they just did not trust my eggs, the health of my eggs, to be able to do that. And why go through the process if it was like 2% chance, right? So we go back, we get like fantastic news. His count was much better. The health of his sperm was much better. So we could move forward. So we go back to my specialist. Bad news. I didn't have any improvement. So they said the only thing that we could do at that point would be ICSI, the ICSI, which I can't pronounce it. I'm sorry. So basically they do take an egg and they take a sperm and they inject the sperm into the egg. So, and then they only gave us a 5% chance at that. So they were like, at $15,000, would you gamble a 5% chance? And they told us at that point that it was time for us to look at building our family a different way.
So what's the difference between, what did you say, ICSI and IVF?
So IVF is where they put the egg and the sperm in a petri dish together, and the sperm finds its egg on its own and implants on its own. And ICSI is where they actually take a healthy, good sperm that's been isolated. They find the best one. The quarterback of the crowd is what they said. And, you know, they get my best egg that they could harvest, and they actually inject that sperm into the egg instead of doing the sperm doing the hard work. They took him.
Okay.
And then we would see from that point if it would continue to grow before they would inseminate me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said earlier that you were not a candidate for IVF. Explain why.
We were not a candidate for IVF because of his sperm. He did not have enough healthy sperm to be able to put into a petri dish to rely on it doing its job to get to an egg.
So when you were going through all of this, did you share this with family or friends?
We did not at first. We kept it very close to ourselves. Only like a handful of people knew. My best friend and my family. I had spoke to my sister, mom, and dad. We kept it hidden from his family because his family, he's devout Catholic, born and raised Catholic. His mom is devout, and they just, you know, have different views on how to make a baby. And that was another conflict between us, is he was not willing to go as far as I was willing to go. So we struggled in that department. Our marriage took a really big blow for quite some time because I was hell-bent on being pregnant, becoming a mother, whether it was donor sperm, donor egg, adoption of an embryo. We looked into all of those options, and it was just not something he wanted to do. And I wanted to experience pregnancy. And excuse me. So like I said, we had a really hard time for a couple of years. Like we went to marriage counseling. We we knew we loved each other and we wanted to find our way back to each other. So we just had to do that. But it was definitely, when you have someone that has different views and you don't really realize that. So
Yeah.
that's one thing I always tell people too, is to make sure you have the discussion before you even go into the infertility office, is to make sure that the same page, you have your hard nose as to what you're not going to do, and you both understand that before you go into it.
That's great advice. Any further relationship or marriage advice that you would give couples that are right now in the thick of it?
Definitely communication. We were not good with each other as far as communication. I think because he knew how bad I wanted it, he did not want to disappoint me. And with us both having an issue, we both felt it was our fault. Like I couldn't, I'm pregnant. He couldn't get me pregnant. He couldn't make me a mother. I couldn't make him a father. So, definitely just communicate and make sure that you are checking in with each other, with your mental health. And if you have to get a therapist involved, we got a therapist involved, and it was amazing because you have that outside party. And I was very lucky to find a therapist that had also been through infertility. So she 100% understood everything that I was feeling and going through. So definitely just communication, and make sure you're checking in with each other, and make sure that from the get-go how far you want to go, what your finances are going to be, because that's a huge thing too. Not everyone can afford this. It's extremely expensive.
Yeah. And just so everyone knows, women are born with a fixed number of eggs inside their ovaries, and they're generally gradually decreases over time until menopause eventually occurs. Essentially, your ovarian reserve is your current egg supply, and it is closely related to your potential to reproduce. So the more eggs you have left, the better chance you have to conceive. And with male infertility, it's due to low sperm production, abnormal sperm function, or blockages that prevent the delivery of sperm. So with all of this now, how have you been psychologically impacted by infertility and childlessness?
It's definitely alienating. You feel like you're the only one going through it, when you know that's not really true, but it just feels that way.
Yeah.
Especially whenever we weren't openly talking about it. We didn't really start openly talking about it until we weren't seeking intervention to get pregnant.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't even know. They knew we were having issues, but they just thought maybe it was marital issues. They didn't really know it was trying to get pregnant issues. So it definitely alienates you. You feel less than as well, because especially when you have all your friends around you and everything is motherhood and woman and women, and our value is placed in being a mother and how we raise our children. Whenever that's just not true. Our value is in being us, a person and a good human being, and if you become a mother, then that's just a plus. But yeah, it definitely affected mental health. I felt alienated. I was depressed. I was not doing well at work. I was angry and very resentful. So I had a lot of issues, on myself to work on because of all of that. So it definitely can send you down a rabbit hole, a dark rabbit hole.
So you said you were affected at work?
Yes.
How so?
Just easily aggravated. I was snappy at people. I would leave work, just walk out and leave. I am so grateful to have an amazing boss. At that point, they knew what was going on. And my boss and his wife had experienced issues. So, again, I'm so blessed to have someone that understood. And because I was a hot mess, I would set something would trigger me, I would just leave and go home. Excuse me. I wouldn't even say or tell anyone I was leaving. I would just walk out. If I had a conflict with someone, it was not just a minor disagreement. I took it to the next level because I was just so messed up myself emotionally and having all of this resentment. And and anger, I would just take it out on someone else. I would just blast it out on someone else.
So this was a span of how many years that you were going through the infertility journey and the male factor?
So when we originally started at age 32 trying, we didn't see the specialist until 35, age 35, 36. And so by 38, we were done. We were told, and now we're 48 and 49. So it's been 10 years since we made the decision to be child free.
Okay. So it's interesting that you use the term child free, and that's something that I've noticed that childless women have evolved throughout the years.
Yes.
From saying childless to child free, some say childless, some say child free. What made you decide to call yourself child free?
This has actually just been recent.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that we're childless by circumstance. But recently we have been saying that we're child free. We are identifying as that now. I think I've just evolved past saying childless because it's so depressing. It's so sad. Like when you say it to someone, you just get that pitiful look,
Mm-hmm.
And even still, when you say you're child free, you get a look, but it's not the pitiful look.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just more freeing to say that I'm child free because we have done so much therapy and so much work on ourselves that we have evolved past the depression and the sadness and everything that came with being childless.
So how did you evolve through the depression and all of those as far as coping with childlessness?
Therapy number one.
Mm-hmm.
I had weekly sessions for probably 2 full years, and now I just do monthly check-ins.
Okay.
So I continue therapy because I know that it's something that I need for myself, for my own mental health and well-being. And searching people, I've joined Instagram a couple of years ago and finding people who were in the same situation and connecting with people that had moved past child free or childless after infertility and coming to those terms.
Yeah.
So just finding women in this platform has been absolutely a godsend because
Mm-hmm.
I've seen other ladies doing it.
Yeah.
Happily doing it.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Right.
With the social stigma attached to being a childless woman, what has been your experience existing as a childless woman?
Oh, lots of things, but
Mm-hmm.
mostly like people just saying that oh, you'll never know what true love is. You'll never know what it is to hold that baby in your arms and experience that love. And while that may be true to an extent that
Yep.
I will never know what it is to push a human out of my body and hold it into my arms and feel those exact feelings, I have a wealth of nephews and nieces, and I
Mm-hmm.
have been there when they were born. And I can tell you, I will lay my life down for those children. I
Mm-hmm.
know what love is. I know
Yes.
what true love is.
Mm-hmm.
I love deeply, and I am a maternal person in
Mm-hmm.
general. So I'm always the person that takes care of everybody.
Yeah.
So I know what true love is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to push a human out of my body to know that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So knowing what you know now, what piece of advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Oh gosh. Oh, that's so hard. That's so tough. I would just say because especially at 20, I was so young and so naive. And I would just say make sure that you are speaking your truth and asking more questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to be who you are. Speak up
Mm-hmm.
and just learn as much as you can. Mostly just speak up and be yourself. Don't let
Mm-hmm.
anyone, make you feel less than you are.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, I agree that I firmly believe that with or without children, our life still has meaning and purpose, and we know love. So I like to ask, what brings you happiness?
Um, Gosh, so many things. I love my husband. I love our life. I love my dog. I love serving people. That is my massive love language. I
Mhm.
love giving. I love serving. I love helping others. So definitely what brings me the most happiness is being there for someone and serving, being able to serve them.
Okay. Well, have you figured out your life's purpose?
I honestly am still working on that. I feel like I am here to be that helper. I'm
Mhm.
always the helper. I'm always there to listen, to pick up the pieces, to um, just be there to serve and help. And I think that's what my purpose is.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about Celebrate with Catrina blog.
So it's pretty inactive right now. I
Uh-huh.
really want to do more with it. But it was a blog that I started with intentions of talking about my journey of celebrating life after infertility, life as being a woman that is childless after infertility and child free, choosing to be child free, and all that comes with that. So, like I said, I have a couple of posts on there. I want to become more active with it. That's my goal.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to do that. But it was just started to remind me to celebrate life daily, that there is something that we can celebrate on a daily basis.
So when you initially started it, was it therapeutic for you?
Absolutely. That's why that was my intentions, to let it be something that was therapeutic for myself and hopefully give someone out there that was like me
Mhm.
looking for someone that was the same as them.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for sharing your story.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate the time, Katrina. Have a good day.
You too, Jobi. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Childless woman, you're beautiful. Child-free woman, you are enough. This journey might not be easy, but we're in this together, so we can get through this together by owning our voice. Thank you for your time and attention today. Please like, subscribe, share, and download this episode. From Totem Global, I'm your host, Jobi Tyson. See you next time on As Told by Childless Women. To support this series, please visit AsToldByChildlessWomen.com.